morning, Malta and Gozo. Welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. I'm Yannick Parch, and with me is Tim Diakon, and we're going to be running you through today's most important stories. Before we start, just a quick reminder to subscribe to Lovin Digest. It's a bite-sized roundup of the day's top stories sent right to your inbox. So today's headlines are: Malta has received criticism from the EU over its travel ban on unvaccinated people, which the EU described as discriminatory. The wife of a man who has been missing since December is suing the state after being refused entry into her home. After being mocked over a revenge porn conviction, MEP Cyrus Enger has denounced the spreading of hate. Malta's 6 Olympians and flag bearers have been announced. And a group of Maltese athletes has completed an 18-hour non-stop kayak challenge to Sicily.
Yes, thank you, Yannick. Big story yesterday. The European Commission has formally denounced Malta's upcoming travel ban on non-vaccinated people, which is set to kick into force as of tomorrow, as discriminatory. Now, their logic is that while member states have every right to impose restrictions to safeguard public health due to the pandemic, these restrictions must be proportionate when they impact the freedom of movement, which is a crucial and important pillar of the European Union, must be proportionate and non-discriminatory. And their argument is that a vaccine certificate, an obligation for all travellers to present a vaccine certificate without any alternative, such as a negative test or proof of previous infection, is discriminatory, and I completely agree with them. I think it's great that they've spoken up and nipped it in the bud. Unfortunately, the government is still insisting that it plans to go ahead with this completely draconian new restriction. Now, it must be said that a lot of people in Malta do seem to agree with this restriction. And I think I'm very concerned about how it will impact the country along the line. So the amount of people who are reaching out and have warning that this measure has, I wouldn't say destroyed their lives, but put their lives into complete limbo. And it's, you're playing around with people's lives like that. And if the government can be so callous as to completely ignore this and announce these new rules and completely change the goalposts. So a few days before these new rules are announced, Chris Fenn was going on saying that Malta will be following the UK, or will be following how the situation develops there, which the UK is planning to remove most of its restrictions in the coming days. And then people plan things. Yeah. And then you force them to scrap their plans and leave them in limbo. I think it's really, really unfair on a lot of people.
No, I think you're right in that there kind of needs to be more sensitivity to the fact that people have made plans, or at the very least alternatives for people who have made plans. It's like it's in fact, as the Commission said, it's discriminatory if you kind of prevent people from being able to move without offering some other alternative. In this case, for example, a PCR test. We'll see whether this measure is ultimately reversed as the criticism continues to mount. So on to our next story. The wife of a man who was reported missing on New Year's Eve last year has filed constitutional proceedings against the state, which is claiming that the authorities' refusal to grant her permission to enter her home is breaching her rights. So the story goes back to December when Marcel Pisani was reported missing. Since then, there have been a number of searches. The police have even searched the seabed around the island, but he has not even been found, nor has the car that he drove. Now, Pauline Pisani, his wife, has said in a court application that has revealed that her marriage with Pisani had broken down a while back, and that she had left the matrimonial home with her son. She also suggested there were kind of domestic violence issues, because she said that she was receiving support from the victim support unit. She said that she's made various attempts to gain access to the matrimonial home, which she says contains her belongings, but over the past 6 months these have been consistently refused. The magisterial inquiry into the case is still open, but Pisani is saying that all the reports linked to the inquiry have been concluded, so there's no reason for her to be prevented from returning to the home. Moreover, there was a couple of days before Pisani went missing, a fire broke out in the apartment, and she is saying that without being able to go into her house, she cannot carry out the necessary repairs, so she's also losing the value of her property. And she's suing the state for damages over this delay, which is quite, when you consider that one of these inquiries can take this long and can affect kind of someone's life in this way, it's quite shocking the way the system works sometimes.
I think the story shocked quite a few people because this man has been missing for quite a few months, and the police have been publishing regular updates on his status just to confirm that he's still missing and to encourage people to, with any information about him or his whereabouts to come forward. So far, the efforts have been fruitless. So no one knows who this man is. Now, to be honest, a lot of people, I were fearing the worst, right? As in when he remained missing for a while. However, now it seems there's more to this story than meets the eye. You can't say what happened yet. I'm sure we'll find out some more details further, but I was personally quite surprised by the wife's statements. Yes, and don't judge a book by its cover, and there's more to this than meets the eye. Yeah. So next story. Cyrus Endire, Maltese MEP Cyrus Endire has got into a bit of a clash with a top government official in Hungary. Now, the context behind this is that Cyrus Endire was recently appointed by the European Parliament to lead the negotiations on a resolution which will criticize Hungary for a new law that it's implemented that bans the showing of LGBT plus material to underage children, to minors, and this has really obviously caused an outcry among the European Parliament, amongst the European member states. Some people are even saying Hungary should be expelled from the European Union because of this. I think it's a bit too far, but what Hungary has done is quite outrageous. And Cyrus Endire, being a campaigner himself, a civil liberties campaigner himself, and a gay man, an openly gay man himself, has taken a very strong stance against this. However, a Hungarian official, a certain Zoltán Kovács, Secretary of State for International Relations, has criticized him based on the fact that a few years ago he was convicted for spreading revenge porn of his former boyfriend. He was convicted to a suspended sentence which he served. And he's saying like, are you going to speak? Is this?
I mean, at the end of
what do you make of this? Because it's like Cyrus Endire is then saying like, I'm not going to respond to a far right person. This is the Hungarian government spreading hate, which I get his point. It's a clear example of attacking the messenger, right?
Yes, and I'd say that the issue with it is that is more than the fact that it's a far right, because like someone on the far right can have an opinion. I think ultimately the point is that if someone's making an argument, you don't attack the person. The conviction is what it is, but it's also like quite far in the past now, and if we assume that people can change, obviously it is not to be forgotten, but at the end of the day, if someone is saying something and doing something now which is objectively correct, then that's what you criticize, it's not the person. So I agree that like it does amount to the spreading of hate.
Yeah, exactly.
On to our next story. With less than 2 weeks to the Olympics, Malta has announced the 6 athletes that it will be sending to Tokyo. Out of 6, 4 will be heading to the Games for the first time. The Tokyo Olympics will be unique in that they will be taking place under the shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic, which will see a number of strict protocols in place to ensure that there are no outbreaks at the Games. Malta will be sending 6 of its finest athletes with hopes running high of a positive performance, and who knows, maybe even a medal.
We've never won a medal, right, at the Olympics?
No, we have not. So just to run through the athletes. In track and field, Carla Cicluna, she's Malta's 100-meter national champion and is the only track and field athlete to be representing Malta at the Games this year. She'll be competing on the 30th July, so look out for that. Matteo Abela in badminton. He'll be Malta's first ever badminton athlete at the Olympics, and is the men's singles national champion. He'll hit the court on the 24th of July. Eleanor Bedzina will be competing in indoor pistol shooting. She's making her second appearance at the Olympics and will be competing on the 25th of July. Andrew Katkuti, who is based in the United States, he's Malta's most experienced athlete and is heading to Tokyo after having competed in the London Olympics and the Rio Olympics in 2016. He holds 5 individual national records and 2 in relays, and is a specialist in the freestyle and the butterfly, and he'll be competing on the 27th of July. Sasha Gatt, also in swimming, she's 16 years old. She's Malta's youngest athlete at the Games, and she's broken a number of national records this year. And finally, Zamit Stevens in weightlifting. She's Malta's first female athlete to represent the country in weightlifting at the Olympics, and she'll be competing in the 64 kilograms women's category on the 27th of July. Do you think we'll get a medal?
I thought England was going to win the Euros this year, so I'm not going to make any more predictions. So, best of luck to Malta, and hopefully our athletes will make the nation proud. We're rooting for you. And finally, again, about another story about athletes. 3 Maltese athletes have completed an 18-hour non-stop kayak challenge, kayaking, not a race, a challenge. They were kayaking from St. Paul's Bay in Malta to Sicily, to Ragusa, and they left at 4:30 a.m. Yesterday morning and arrived at Ragusa quite 18 hours later. And they're doing it to raise awareness for obesity. The names are Karen Amato, Rubo Vassallo and Daniel Seguna, so well done to them. They're inspired by endurance swimmer Nila Juice. So yeah, great to see that Maltese athletes pushing the envelope a bit and actually competing for a good cause as well at the end of the day.
Oh, no, and it's quite amazing at how many people actually have what it takes to kind of pull off these challenges, because I mean it's not an easy feat to pull off, and it seems like every other day someone else is coming up with some new way of showing this determination and this endurance. So definitely well done to them, and hopefully we'll see a lot more similar initiatives. So that's it for today. Those were our top stories. Thank you very much for following, and have a day full of lovin'.